better guided, so we can have a more certain shot and not something that you would just expect selling. AIDA and customer interviews. That's what we're talking about today, or
Mm-hmm.
is there something else that I'm not getting yet?
Yeah, that's it. Mostly
That's right.
customer interviews for AIDA.
Okay, awesome. So we have Victor and Eduardo. I believe we can start, or is there anyone else missing?
No, we're good.
Cool. So my idea today is to present you three slides. There are material that I have condensed, um, all the great insights and knowledge that we have about customer interviews and the practice of doing customer interviews. So definitely you're going to benefit a lot from the mindset and the behavior, as well as some example questions that I suggest you to start with. And we are going to talk about, again, right or wrong questions. How do we do questions? So this is going to be in the slides as well. And then I'm going to talk about how I suggest you to capture the insights so we can get back and we can discuss what you've learned and how you can feed your product development process to get the best results. Um, I believe that's the core of it. We're going to invest some minutes not only for the presentation but as well for Q&A. And of course, the rest of it we can discuss about specific points of AIDA and any kind of concern that you might have, like while doing customer interviews for AIDA or any other app. So we can go from there. If this is good for you guys.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Cool, cool. So let me share my screen here. And of course, while I present, feel free to interrupt me at any time. Let me go back here and share my screen. Please let me know if you see or when you see my screen.
I can I can see it.
Okay, cool, cool. So as I mentioned, let's talk about customer interviews. And I always like to start talking about customer interviews, not specifically from the questions or how to generate the insights, but actually with the mindset and behavior. And guys, this is really the most central and most important part of doing customer interviews, because we want to radically increase the chances of generating insights. And we just can do that if our customers or potential customers, they open themselves, they open their minds and their lives to you. So if or these mindset and behavior tips that I have here, they are very, very important and very powerful to increase the chances of generating insights. I'm going to of course talk about each one of them, but feel free make your questions, your comments as well if you have had the experience as well. So let's move on. And the first uh, tip or the first recommendation that I have to you is this is something very common, and most of the tips are very common to be mistaken. And the first one refers to asking what they did and not what they do. Usually we think about asking, hey, how do you organize yourself related to that? Or hey, how does your sales team behave? Or how does your sales team record? Or how many times per week do you do that? It's much, much better and much preferable to say, uh, let me understand how the last meeting with your sales team was. Tell me about the last time you assessed your sales team performance. How did you do that? Oh, I got into our systems and actually I have these spreadsheets and I just do this, or I did this, I did that. So it's much more valuable to ask them about specific experiences that they have had instead of generic things or concepts. When we ask customers generic questions. What do you do? How many times per week do you exercise? This comes with a generalization, and this comes with a very, very weak view from the customer about what he or she does. Sometimes I say, hey, how many times do you exercise per week? Oh, 3 times per week. Okay. But if I asked, how many times did you exercise last week? Oh, last week, one. Oh, one. That's generally what you do. Oh no, normally it's three, but I got too much work because it's the beginning of the month and I couldn't exercise. Oh, so we start understanding the context and we start connecting the dots, saying, okay, this guy did this, but it happens like that, and this is what really happened in his or her life. So asking what they did, or try the most to ask what they did, what happened yesterday, what did you do yesterday when you woke up? It's about facts, it's not about generalizations. The next one, very important one as well, ask open-ended questions. That means why, how, and what. It's very common to say, hey, do you feel it's important to have metrics while managing your sales team? Example. Yes, I do. Or no, I don't. Have in mind that the questions that you do, they should ignite a conversation from the customer. When you ask close-ended questions that stops in yes or no, you are just preventing them from talking. You should try, and this is a generalization, but this is a good rule. Like, you should see yourselves talking like 10% of the time, and your customers talking 90% of the time. Because every time that you talk, every time that you are talking, you are saying something, you're just wasting time for your customers to talk. Of course, you need to talk, don't get me wrong, but you just need to talk the minimum to start or to make your customers start talking. So if you say, for example, John, how do you do that, or how is your process of reaching out to customers, or how would you reach out to customers right now? What would be the first things that you would do and why? Oh, I do this. First, I separate a list of customers that I need to call. And then later, I'm going to get a coffee because it's a hard work. Don't ignore those things. It's hard work. Whoa, really? Why is it hard, John? Because it's too complicated. It's like a mess. I try to order the context, but okay, talk more, John. More. I want to know more. So asking open-ended questions, it's definitely much, much more preferable than yes or no questions as well. Number three, and again, it's reinforced here, but I like bringing the simply shut up rule and remembering that it's about them. When we are creating, when we are developing apps, we are developing products, we tend to put ourselves in the center of the conversation. Like, I'm here because I want to develop the best app. I'm talking with this guy because this guy is going to bring me insights for my app and insights that I'm going to bring. So, when you are in the conversation with your customers or potential customers, it's important to understand that they are the experts in the matter. What you're doing there in the conversation is to address the customer's context, the customer's lives, fears, constraints, goals, desires. So no one in the world knows more about their context than themselves. And that's exactly the picture that you would like to paint to customers too. I'm talking to you because we are developing a solution. We are working hard to develop a solution for people like you. But before developing something and bringing something to the world that no one wants, we want to talk with customers like you, with people like you, and to better understand your context. So we can understand perfectly what kind of needs do you have and what kind of product we could build. That's why I'm talking to you, Mary, because what matters, and there isn't right or wrong answers here. This is something that you can reinforce to them. But uh, the only answer that matters, Mary, it's your answer, your truth, your perspective, and that's the biggest help that you can give us right now. So Mary and John and any other one that you're going to interview should understand. Okay, this guy is trying to understand my context, so everything that I bring will help them to understand and build a better product as well. So that's it. Simply shut up. Let them talk. Let them talk. Um, that's a very important one too, and people tend to feel very concerned about it. Like, okay, Alex, I would like some help with the script and to do the right questions. I want to do the right questions. I say that the script sets the direction, but it's not the purpose of the conversation. The script and the questions that you've designed before the interview starts, they will serve as an ignition point. But very important thing. First, no one in the world, not you, nor me, not any other person in the planet will tell you what the best questions are before we have started doing questions. Because, for example, you can say, "Hey, how do you how was the last?" And this is one of the questions that I suggest you to do. How was the last meeting with your sales team? How was it like? How would you define it? Oh, we don't do we really don't do meetings. Oh, you don't. But how you handle that? Oh, we have this Slack group and we simply put the numbers there and oh, and how people organize with that? How is the frequency? And what happens when someone hasn't input their numbers? So, first, I was not envisioning talking about Slack and managing a sales team through Slack, but the conversation brought me into that. So, I started a question so I can better understand. But if the customer brings the conversation to another important and relevant perspective, I'm totally okay in going into direction and exploring it. Sometimes you will notice after the second, the third, the fourth interview, you start noticing a pattern or some patterns emerge. And it's very funny that we start saying, you know what? Three people from four that we interviewed, they mentioned about the Slack, using the Slack. So I think we can start better exploring this point in the next interview. I think we can ask, like, for example, what communication systems you use besides your meetings. Okay. And we start discovering other things as well. Questions so far?
I'm good. It is very clear.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Feel free anytime. The next one, be curious. And probably this is one of the tips that will help you the most. And I always say follow your instincts. And these instincts are about really being genuine with your curiosity. What I mean is that when you're there, you're not a machine that is just repeating questions from a script. You are really a human being, and this is not to be metaphorically beautiful. No, you are a human being listening to another human being who is investing his time or her time to help you. So you're interested about how this human being do or does things. If you're asking about how do you manage your sales team, ask genuinely. When this person says, and it's quite boring. Oh, really? Why is it boring? Tell me more about that. I really want to understand your feeling. And why do you feel boring? Oh, it's because people talk too much. It's because people deviate the subject too much. Oh, really? And how do you do to wrap up at the end, or how do you do to get everything together? Oh, that's really very frustrating, and I really don't like to I really don't like to manage my sales team. That's the truth. Oh, but why that? So you're asking why, you're asking how, you're interested in what they're saying, and this interest will spark the best insights, not the crafted, well-crafted questions. That's not about it. It's about asking and being genuine. Be curious. The next one, that's very common. Don't pitch. We are talking here about what we say problem interviews, and that's what they are. We tend to start talking, and when we say, okay, uh, we are developing the product, and this person says, oh, you know what, I face problems with the current systems to manage my ads, and it would be great if I have something or a dashboard that did this. Even if you know that your dashboard does exactly that, you shouldn't say, oh, yeah, by the way, just a parenthesis, we are building exactly those things. Our dashboard will do this, this, and that. But don't enter into the product conversation, because first, you're wasting time of the customer talking. And second, we don't want to talk and discuss with the customer about features. It's very common that startups face, like in the customer interviews, people asking for features. So, hey, you know what? I know that you're developing a product. You know what would be amazing? It would be like this big dashboard with several different pictures and graphs. And with these pictures, each one of the salesman could do this, this, and that. And okay, this conversation started to be useless, because customers know a lot about their contexts, but there is a very important point, which is customers don't know what is possible and not. And by not knowing what's possible and what's not possible, generally customers tend to think about a solution based on what they know about systems and applications. So we shouldn't rely on them to get to the solution. But every time that someone, and that's a great tip, great tip, and I've seen this happening. Every time that someone asked for a feature, hey, you know what? I would like a dashboard that does this, this, and that. It would be amazing. Oh, really, Austin? But let me understand, how would a dashboard like that help you in your life? And then Austin starts saying, you know what? With this dashboard, I could do this, this, and that. And I could save some time in doing this, this, and that, because today I spend too much time or money by doing these tasks. So the problem comes with the time and money spent on these parts of the process. Yes. Okay. So based on a feature and a discussion of the product feature, you started to review some problems. And based on these problems, you're going to get to the right solution. So, next one. Number 7, stop assuming things. And sometimes customers tell us, oh, you know what? I really don't like meetings. They are too boring. Okay, yes, I understand. And what about applications? What do you wait a minute. They said the meeting is boring. And you might be assuming that people talk too much. You might be assuming that the meeting lasts too long. You might be assuming that people are lost in their numbers. They don't have numbers. They are not objective. So that is exactly the problem when you start assuming things. So that's why it's important to ask some obvious questions as well. Like, okay, the meetings are too boring. Really, why do you say that? Oh, because it ends up lasting too long. We schedule a meeting for half an hour and we spend like 1 hour and a half. Ah, and why do you believe it takes more time than necessary? Most of the meeting or 30 minutes of the meeting we just spend trying to organize ourselves. Ah, okay. And what part is the most difficult one to organize? Oh, it's just to know how to manage the leads or how to visualize the leads in a screen. Okay. So from a statement that seems to be kind of naive, like, oh, the meetings are boring, you ended up discovering that they have a problem in organizing leads on a screen. So that's why it's important to ask why. Why do you say boring? Oh, because meetings are boring. No, no. Why do you say that? So don't assume things. Ask obvious questions. The next one, I mentioned that before, but I'm going to emphasize that. Ask why. Ask why a lot. Because what matters the most, more than the statement, is the motivation. So I start working really early in the morning because I'm a morning person. Okay, but why do you like the mornings? Why is it good for you? Oh, because it's so silent. So silent. I can't concentrate myself. Okay. No, it's because I like leaving early. I really like to be with my kids at the end of the afternoon. Okay, that's a very, very different thing. So maybe we can help both of them, but first we need to understand why people do that. Oh, you know what? I prefer, and I've seen that many times. I like before each meeting, I like printing all my leads. Why do you do that? What's the motivation that made you print something that you could see in your computer? Oh, because we are too much in the room. It's too crowded, and it's hard to take my laptop there. Oh, okay. So maybe we need to think about a solution, and that's not that decisive, but maybe we need to think about a solution that you can print in one page all of what they need, or something like that, or have on their phones so they don't need to print. So ask why. Why is where the insights live. Next one. Again, the customer is the expert. You want them to feel like that and not you. It's very common also that another aspect of the customer interview is that, hey, it's hard to deal with too many systems at the same time. Let's suppose Peter told you that. Yes, I know, Peter. And then you start talking. Yes, I know. We develop systems, but it's very hard. We notice that some users like you, they face problems like that, and they are always okay. You don't want to show Peter that you have the knowledge. You don't need to prove your knowledge to Peter, that you know about systems, that you know about society, that you know about. You just need to listen. You don't want to show yourself to Peter in any sense. You are there to be open. And the more you show yourself, not only you just waste time, but Peter starts saying, okay, yes, he starts seeing that you have an opinion, and you might have an opinion about what he's saying. So we don't want him or her to see you as the main agent of the conversation. The next one, don't judge your customers. Discover their reasons why. That means, and it's more related to judgment. Sometimes we think that customers are lazy or customers are dumb or customers, and I'm not saying in the hard way. We're just saying that, oh, yeah, why is he printing the material? Yeah, ask him. Don't consider Alex a stupid guy because he prints things. Oh, he's wasting material. No, wait a minute. Why do you do that? Or, for example, I have I take a I take a picture of my slides before the presentation starts. Why does he do that? So I know what I'm going to present next. That's stupid. No, why do you do that? Oh, because by doing that I can read easier. Ah, and how is that easier? Oh, because this. Ah, okay. There is a reason. All the reasons are legit. All the reasons are legit. And we should respect everything because they are the truth. And that's what we want. The next one, very important one, and very difficult and challenging one, leave pauses for them to think. The gold is in the silence. The insights is in the silence. That means, and that's very common, guys. That's very common. We ask a question, and sometimes the customer says, I really don't know. And we get bothered with the silence. We simply get bothered with it. Like, I don't know. And we tend to do something that is awful and is very harmful for the customer interviews, which is, oh, I don't know. Yes, but don't you have some kind of application, or maybe you just go, or just take your notes home, and we are suggesting things. We are we are we are just including some bias in the interview. Oh, maybe it's easier for you, right, John? That's wrong. You want to leave pauses for John to think. So, I don't know. And then you stay in silence because you might have noticed that the silence is uncomfortable. But if you resist this sensation that you have, remember that your potential customers, the ones who you are talking to, they will always also feel like that. It is uncomfortable. So they will try, as you're going to do, you will try to do intuitively, they will try to cover the silence with some words. And that's the beauty of it. Oh, how do you well or how do you do, or how did you do last time that you went out for walking? What are the things that you, or how do you decide about your path? I don't know. Yeah, sometimes I try to go. I try to go through the lake, and but I also can. Okay, he's talking. He's uncomfortable and he's talking. So I really like exercising like that and leaving these pauses a little bit longer for questions that I believe can be better explored. And believe me, they start talking, and they start bringing the most interesting things, because these are things that they didn't think about. And they say, okay, yes, I like doing that because, I tend to do this. Oh, why? Oh, because, and you start everything again. And the last one, you're always learning, never perfect, always better. And I emphasize that because many people who are doing customer interviews for the first time or for the second time, they tend to think like, okay, I want to do the best questions. And what if I don't ask open-ended questions? What if I do yes or no questions? Or if I simply don't shut up? Oh, I noticed that I talk a lot, and that's exactly why you are always learning. Don't expect to be perfect and all these tips will magically happen. Oh, Alex, I asked why for every question and everything was open-ended. And I didn't assume anything. And I didn't judge my customers. And that's impossible. even the most experienced customer interviewers, they tend to sleep in one aspect or the other. And that's why, guys, I really recommend you that after the interview is over, each interview is over, you first wrap up the insights that you got from the interview. And second, take a look at these tips and these guidelines and try to assess your past behavior and your mindset. Like, okay, did I ask what they did? Okay, yes, I did. Did I do open-ended questions? I remember some yes or no questions. Yeah, actually, I ask a lot of yes or no questions. Okay, the next interview is coming. So just highlight the aspects that you need to improve. So in the second interview, you're going to do much better. The third interview, even more. I always say that because some people really freak out about being perfect and not making mistakes. It's impossible, but it's very possible to learn. So keep learning, keep assessing yourselves after each interview. Sorry, I talked a lot, but I just would like to bring the most relevant and most powerful aspects of customer interviews, behavior, mindset. Uh, I would like to hear your voices. Like, is this something that you already did uh, while building the apps, or these are some new tips or new mindset and behavior that we need to develop? Let me hear you.
Yeah, I think this is new for me because we haven't do like formally user interviews. Like maybe ask some questions, informal questions, but we don't have like an instructor or or anything like you are giving us. So yeah, and everything makes a lot of sense. Um, what else? Uh, I don't know if later we are going to talk more about AIDA because I would like to know, like more focusing on the developing of the app. What are the questions that I could maybe ask?
Mhm. Yes, I have some questions, some suggestions, and we can discuss about other questions as well. But thanks, Dates. Thanks for the input. I like that you're seeing something new, of course, and I would love to discuss about IDA as well.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Go on, and then we can talk about AIDA, or we talk about AIDA right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to move on. If you don't have questions or comments about this slide, there are three slides actually. So the next one is going to talk about some questions related to what we have discussed, but we can change the questions. I'm just going to show you a script that I did. Feel free
Okay.
to come back to these tips now or later, but let's move on. I like the provocation that I did about IDA. So here's a suggested script, and I just have a source that is it's a book called Deploy Empathy by Michelle Hansen. It's one of the great books that talk about customer interviews, product discovery. So if you want to know more about it, I definitely recommend this book. I have other books to recommend. But the script would go something like that. And just for us to visualize something more concrete, as Dais has mentioned about the the IDA project and how we can fit this knowledge into it. So after you have scheduled and once you are talking with the person, it's important, and just reading the first sentence there, it's important to create some rapport, which means it's important to create some connection in the beginning. So you don't start simply doing questions, but you say something like, if you're talking on the phone, hi, is this the person X? Or hello, Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Thank the person. I'm really excited to talk to you. And before we start, I just wanted to ask if you had any questions. So probably you're going to send an invitation and you're going to schedule the meeting with your customer or with your potential customers by giving them some guidelines, like, hey, we are working on a solution for this audience and we would like your help to tell us a little bit about your life and how you manage this part of your life. It's very common that these people come to the interview with some doubts. And guys, this is important. We don't want people, or we don't want to start the interview with people feeling doubtful about the process. That means we want to ask them, hey, before we start, based on what you've read about the invitation and what we are doing right now, is there something that you would like to start asking? Is there something that you are thinking about? And let them talk like, okay, yes, I don't understand. Is this something related to product X, or is this something that we are going to test something? Do I need to do something? So answer their questions before you start. It's never too much to over communicate. So emphasize there is no right or wrong answers. It's about your context, etc., etc. The next part is okay. Just before we start, is it okay to record this interview? And this is something that, if you can, I definitely advise you to do. So you say it's just so I can listen to what you're saying and don't have to be scribbling or writing down notes the whole time. I won't be shared. It won't be shared outside our organization. It's always important to ask their permission to do that. If they say no, it's a no. You don't record, of course. But if they say yes, I have a software to suggest to you, so you can record, you can get the transcript, and organize your customer interviews as well. The questions that I suggest you to do, and just for us to start envisioning, don't forget, guys, that these are not mandatory and the only questions they're going to do. But the interview could go or could start with something like that. First, so Jane, start by telling me a little bit about yourself and your role in the company. I consider for these questions the CRM part. I didn't consider the digital marketing one. And as I mentioned to you, it's important to find an initial positioning for your app, not only for the development of it, but also for the interviews, finding people. It starts becoming really hard if you choose to do many things. Digital marketing, CRM for salespeople. What is this conversation about? What's the context that you're trying to understand? So the first thing is to make this context clear. And I have, for these questions, addressed the CRM for salespeople context. So you're talking to Jane, to John, or whoever he or she is, but you ask and you start getting the conversation by asking them to tell a little bit about themselves and their role in the company. So I'm John, and I'm X year old. If he wants to talk, um, and I do this in company. I'm the responsible for managing the teams. I'm the responsible for taking care of our indicators. I'm the responsible. Okay. Any aspect that John believes it's important for you, he will bring into the first question. So pay attention to how he phrases things and what kind of things he tells you. The second question, what's the biggest challenge you face regarding your company's marketing and why? I went to the company's marketing as a whole because I would like to check at least in this first interview, uh, if managing sales team is something that comes first. So this is more like a check in or check question, but also trying to understand what is in John's mind right now. Maybe he is very concerned about digital marketing, and he's going to tell you that. But at the same time, you're going to understand if the sales team is something, or which aspects of the sales team is important for him or her. So I start generally asking about the challenge, about something that they are fighting with, that are causing or asking them to invest their times. Then, after asking something more generic related to a challenge, I would also suggest you to ask something about something more specific. Like, okay, John, now tell me about how your sales team is organized. Now tell me how is your sales how is the sales organization in your company? How does it happen? Oh, actually, we have a team of 5 people, and we have a manager. We meet recurrently, etc., etc., and we help each other. We meet regularly. Um, we have a big results, or we've been having a big result, etc., etc. So let John talk about the sales team. Then, as I told you, it's important to ask something that is related to facts. Uh, and I would do something like, how would you define your last meeting with your sales team? What would be the words that best describe it? Oh, it was crowded. It was really intense. It was long. Okay, you told me about crowded. Why do you say so? Oh, because we started asking for the accounting team to participate as well, because it's been hard to account for sales. And okay. And you mentioned about intense. What does that mean, John? Well, intense because there were several different discussions, and we had to go very fast through each one of them, to etc., etc. So you are discovering things that happens in John's life. The next one, and how do you assess your sales team performance? So this is even more specific, based on the things that you are trying to build. Like, what's the frequency? Through which means do you do that? Let me better understand, how do you assess their performance, and how did you do the last time? Oh, I used our software. They register the things there. I need to do some calculation. It takes me like 1 day to do that. Or if he doesn't tell you that, you ask. But this and that, and they are doing good. But we are facing problems in asking them to register things in the system. Oh, really? Why? Why do you say there's a problem? Because it takes too much time, so they just leave it for the end of the week. And sometimes they forget. So when I get the metrics on Friday, they're not complete. So I need to ask them to do. Okay, you are understanding John's context right now. There is a very common, or very famous question. I like it. I like it a lot, and I'm going to tell you why. But it's related to the sixth question, and it says, if you had a magic wand and you could change any aspect of your sales team work or your sales organization work, what would it be and why? This question seems a little bit silly, but I really like the question, and it's really effective, because it tells the customer, you know what? I don't want you to think about what's possible in your opinion. Like, I'm not saying, if you what do you think can change with your sales team? I'm asking, if anything was possible in the world, in the universe, that means the magic wand, what would you do? And when you say magic wand, they say, oh, okay, I can say anything. I can tell you anything. Yes, you can. Oh, I would like to have everything recorded in the system immediately. If they close a sale and they say to their customers, "Oh, deal," it immediately goes to the system. Although you know it's not possible, or at least you don't see a solution for that, you can go back and say, "Oh, really? And how would this automatic, immediate system recording, how would that help you?" Oh, it's because I could do this, this, and that, and I could immediately report, and I could calculate things pretty fast. Um, for example, they can say, you know what? It's the calculation of the metrics takes some time. So the sooner I get the numbers, the sooner I end the process of calculating. So you can think about how to register things faster, but you can always think about how to calculate things faster. So the problem might be in the calculation and not exactly about registering the sales in the app. Is it clear?
Yeah. Well, it's a really good question. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I agree.
Cool, cool. So that's an example, but that's why it's important to ask, okay, why do you say that? Why exactly? Maybe the reason is totally another thing, and you say, okay, but what if I could automate your calculation? I was not even thinking about it. But if you say, okay, you're not going to suggest that, you can come up with something, but you can explore why the calculation takes too much, John. You completely change the perspective of the interview, but you're going towards an interesting aspect, something that maybe you can solve with your product. So you start asking about the calculation, and the interview is over, and you're going to interview Rachel now. You can add the calculation in a short question in the middle of the interview. Oh, really? And do you calculate your metrics? Is this something that takes too long? Oh no, I do that automatically. Okay. Oh no, it takes me two minutes only. Oh really? Why? Oh, I don't have many people in my team, so or I asked them to calculate their metrics. Okay, it's a solution that Rachel found that John didn't find. So you start getting a perspective of what they do. Finally, last question, and this is what we call the foot on the door question. But this is very interesting, which you say, okay, thank you so much, Rob, for taking the time to talk to me. I really learned a lot about what you said to me or what you bring to me today. And before I go, before we hang up, is there anything else you think I should know about what we discussed today? Something that maybe I didn't ask, but you know it will be something valuable for me. And you leave the silence, you leave the pause for them to think. So, from this question, because they know their perspective much more than you do, they might remember or they might be thinking about something that you didn't ask, but you surrounded it. And they could say, yes, there is a big turnover in our team. So every time we are changing people here, and it's very hard because they need to learn the process again, and a month later they are gone. So this is really something that is challenging us on how to solve. Okay, and but what takes time for them to learn? Oh, it's the system, it's the process, it's the metrics. And why do you think people are leaving? Is there a reason? Oh, it's because the market, it's because the industry, it's because they don't reach their quotas, so we just fire them. Okay, so they might bring you in this last question, they might bring you some valuable insights that you could explore. So leave some time for them to talk about this last question as well. Thoughts, comments? we enter a little bit more into the AIDA. That's what I tried. So let me hear your thoughts.
Well,
Yeah,
if you can go first, please.
yeah. No, it's just so we are doing this interview so we can know where the next steps are going to be for AIDA. And as you say, here we are focusing on the CRM part. And as you know, we have the other part that is a Facebook, like a Facebook manager,
Mm-hmm.
uh, ads manager. And so you recommend that we do like two types or interview, each one focus to um, to each of these parts, and then we decide where AIDA is going to go next, or you recommend we focus first only in one is the one of the features, and we do all the interviews focusing on that feature.
Yeah, that's a great question. And first, you have, or right now, this is it is a very diverse scope, like the Facebook and the CRM. Although they relate to marketing, if you try to ask them in the same process, I don't recommend you to do so because you're going to reduce the time that you have to generate deeper insights. Remember, you're not doing like a survey, like asking some questions just to get a sense of what people think. So it's preferable that you go deeper into to a specific topic than going in this very superficial way in two different or more topics. I would suggest um, that there are two ways. The first way is, Alex, we believe that this part, or we have already defined the positioning of our company, or starting the positioning with the CRM or with the Facebook. We have done that. So I would go and I would try to do interviews with just one. If you tell me, Alex, no, I'm sorry, but we don't have this positioning, we don't have an aspect of our current app that we bet more than the other one. We are divided. So in this case, I would definitely suggest you to do two kinds of interviews. One based on the digital marketing or Facebook or the scope that you have there, and another one for the CRM. And start generating insights. Start understanding the aspects of these two different scopes, so you can go back to the lab, we can go back to the discussion and say, guys, we interviewed people like that and like that based on this scope and this scope. We discussed about marketing, but really we didn't find something relevant. Or we discussed about marketing and CRM, but there is a specific aspect in the marketing, in the Facebook, in the digital marketing Facebook scope, that we got from several people, really interesting, and we believe we can build something really, really promising, something unique to the market. So the question is really great because in this specific point that you may be divided between two different scopes, it can serve to show you which one is the most promising one, which scope have the best opportunity or opportunities for you to pursue. I just wouldn't do, in the sense of development and customer interviews, trying to develop both in parallel. I know it's tempting, but it's very hard to start with this more comprehensive, broad approach.
Okay. Okay, and another question is, when someone is like you are interviewing someone and he's not giving you like lots of information or any information, like the person that maybe answered with 3 words or four and like that. Do you have a trick to make them talk more, or um the when you realize that, what I will do is like try to um make the interview go faster, so I can move with another person that gives me more information. But I don't know how how you handle this. If you have
Yeah,
any
that
trick.
that's a great question, and I wouldn't say that it's very common. So I wouldn't expect that the majority of people will act like that, because if you have stated the purpose, if you have asked people to participate, usually they want to participate. So just to take a little bit of this concern out of the table. But yes, there are some times that you get people who don't talk a lot, like 3 words. I would definitely consider some of the techniques that I mentioned to you, like asking open-ended questions, why, and leaving pauses for them to think and to feel this discomfort while we are together. If you notice that they are that they might be, like, for example, aggressive, or they are very closed, it's not a problem to ask, hey, I feel that you are in a rush. Is this still a good time for us to do the interview? I prefer being honest with the person and showing with my words that I notice this behavior. I wouldn't simply not consider doing the interview. I would try a little bit further, and I would say, "Hey, I noticed that it seems that you are a little bit in a rush. Is this still a good time for us to do the interview? This is something really important, and I would like it to be in the right time for you as well." So be honest with the person. So he might say, "Yes, that is really, this is not a good time. We are in the middle of a storm here, and oh, I do understand, and there is no problem. We can reschedule. I'm going to set up a meeting in another hour," because I prefer trying to get the perspective of everyone, even the grumpiest ones, than just getting into the easy ones, the responses. So, and there are people who are not going to talk at all. You might face that, but I think there are resources, and my latest or my last call is telling them, "Hey, really, I noticed that you are a little bit in a rush. You are uh, being really fast in your answers. Again, is it now a good time for you? Are you still free for the next 20 minutes for the interview?"
Okay, that's great. That's great. Thank you. That's it for from my part. I don't know about you, Wade.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So for instance, we have to focus on a specific thing, right? So my thought was to create a like a customer profile, like a user persona. It's called
Hmm.
in UX, user experience. So I was thinking, okay, we can do that, but I think one of the hardest thing to get is like to get the actual interview with the correct customer. So,
Hmm.
well, do you have any suggestions how to um, get better customers so we can interview them?
Definitely. The first thing, as I mentioned, is to define or to narrow down your scope uh, by considering one specific context. Like when we are dividing, okay, digital marketing and CRM, we are doing that because they are very different and they will address different problems. The second thing is that, okay, Alex, we did that. We separated. There is the CRM, the digital marketing. And now what? Now you're going to consider what what are the aspects of your product or how your product would better help these people. And as we mentioned, like what again, going back to the positioning, what are the unique characteristics of your product? What kind of value these features bring to customers? Oh, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's more beautiful, is easier, more user friendly. This is more complete. This is automated. This is okay. These are the unique attributes of your product. And or this is the value, like it's immediate response. This is 20 times faster. Cool. Once you understand the value of it, you will ask yourselves like who or what kind of customer or company would care the most about a faster CRM, a more user-friendly CRM, or a much more complete CRM with more metrics. Alex, we bring 40 new metrics. Okay, which companies are we talking about that will really care about 40 new metrics? Well, probably companies that they are big companies. They are very technical about their sales aspects. They have a lot of people to manage. They want to be the best in the world. The competition is very fierce. Okay, okay. So you start, and again, we cannot envision perfectly, but you start describing who these people are based on the value that your product brings. You start interviewing them or targeting them for interview, and you start noticing. Maybe you see that, you know what, I talked with three guys that we believed were like our ideal customer profile. But we are kind of wrong believing that they would use that because I just noticed that they don't have this problem. I just noticed that small companies don't even think about that because they don't have enough volume of sales. Or this kind of industry, they don't work like that. They prefer, I don't know, the owner does the job and they divide themselves differently. So you start learning, and the customer interviews will serve for that. You start learning about your audience and iterating or pivoting your audience in the way. So the best way, Alex, to find the ideal customers is to start defining them, start envisioning first hypothesis about them too, and checking if your hypothesis is true. Are these the right customers? Yes, no. Who they might be.
Yeah, but also what I mean is how do we reach them? So like the actual practice on LinkedIn or our the people that we know that could know these kind of customers. You know what I mean?
That would depend on the kind of customer. Like if you're talking about big companies, you're going to reach them in a different way than small companies, and so on. I again, you can reach them in different ways. I already reached them like through their LinkedIn accounts. So if you know, for example, we have we want to talk with the sales managers directly, or with the IT guys. We are going to try to go into that direction. I generally ask for especially for companies. I ask for a connection on LinkedIn, and I present myself. Like, hey, I'm working, I have this company, and we are gathering the perspective of managers like you. It's a solution that's envisioning helping in the sense of organization and etc. Would you participate in a 20, 25, 30-minute interview? So LinkedIn is a way. I already got interviews from website forms. Like, okay, I don't have their contacts. How can I get them? There are forms in the website. So I simply send messages. One important point, very important point that many people just forget. It's definitely a numbers game, and it's not something that okay, would you like interview? Of course. I was waiting to do an interview the whole day. That's amazing. Whenever you want. Usually, you should think that people will simply ignore your request. So you do another request, and another invitation, and another one, and another one, and you reach another person, and you talk with someone to reach another person. It's 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 a matter of volume. It's a matter of asking for many people so you can get some interviews. The good news is that you just need some interviews. So what I mean is that you don't need thousands, hundreds. You need like 7 to 10 interviews to start generating great insights. The other good news is that, okay, Alex, that's kind of challenging. Yes, it is. But once you have mentioned what you're trying to do, and you got people interested in what you're doing, it will be much easier to reach them again to sell your product. So Alex, I was able, after a lot of work, I was able to find 7 people to talk to. Okay, cool. So do customer interviews. And at the end of your problem interviews, you say, hey, thank you so much. And by the way, we will consider everything that you mentioned today to come up with a great solution. We are talking with different customers. Is it okay if I reach you again, but this time to show you what we built? Oh, okay, sure. Of course, Eric. Generally, that's the answer. So you have almost like a lead, almost like someone who is going to be very likely to purchase what you're selling if it's good enough for them. But it's a matter of volume. It's not one, oh, 7 people invited for 7 interviews. That's not how things work. You invite as many as you can, uh, but this is going to bring you like your 7, 10 interviews.
All right, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I actually faced that in the past, so okay, that's cool.
Okay.
Also, another question was about the guidelines, because you mentioned first that when somebody gets in an interview, they are like have doubts. And, okay, yeah. Want to talk? Oh,
No, no.
okay.
Go on.
Yeah, just what are these guidelines? Like we need to give them some context, but I don't know if there's a framework or something to do so.
Yeah, actually, you mention you make it clear like what you're doing and why you're doing that. So when the guidelines or the introduction for the interview should be something that it clarifies what's the reason why you're contacting them and why they are asking them to talk to you. So usually I just say, hey, I'm part of company X team, and we've been working hard to 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 develop a solution related to the sales team or to help companies or small companies. That's why it's like it's really good to be as specific as possible. So you could say, for example, Alex, we define that our most likely customer profile is a small business owner, 5 to 10 people in their teams, in the sales team, and we are going to help them to organize things in a user-friendly way. Okay. So you go to them, you go to these people, and you say, "Hey, uh, hey, uh, hey, Peter, I'm I'm part of X company team. and we are working hard to build a solution that will help small companies like you with a sales team of from 5 to 10 people to organize their efforts in a very simple and streamlined way. But before we finish our product, or because we want to incorporate the real needs of our users into this product, we are requesting the help of potential users to give us their context so we can perfectly understand and we can build something that is truly meaningful for them. Would you help us in this mission?
Yeah.
So again, who you are, what you're doing, and why do you need their help? Uh, that would be enough. Oh, but what if people say no? That's what you can do. Really, being as clear as possible and asking them, hey, it's a product for you. So if they are looking for a solution, if what you say rings a bell inside their minds, this is going to be something that is at least a little bit enticing, curious. They want to feel useful. So they should help you with that.
All right. Yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you.
Just a parenthesis, sorry. I really gotta jump in another meeting,
Oh
but
yeah.
uh, we definitely have more things to discuss based on your questions. I still would like to mention about and I'm going to send you the presentation to you. There is this other slide in which I show you some ways to capture your insights and some suggestions of and a suggestion for an application. Probably you already use Miro. I have another one for customer interviews. Um, if you want, we can continue the conversation in another meeting. I'm going to send you the material. That's the last slide, so feel free to check it. But I really got to jump. I just took a look at the time, and unfortunately, this there's a call right away. Is there anything else before we hang up, guys? I just would like to leave, and that's why I'm moving to the end. But I would like to hear from you in terms of if these things make sense. Is there a major concern that make these things impossible to execute? Something like that.
No, not really.
No,
Well,
everything's clear to me.
yeah. So we only need to plan like maybe we will send like 30 invitations and get like 15 schedules, and we finally, like a funnel. So it is like,
Exactly.
yeah. So yeah, we're fine.
Okay, okay. Again, just let me know. Send me a message if you want to discuss. Uh, Again, the invitations, or if you want to go deeper into the customer profile, or discuss about which are the scopes that you would like to address first. We can discuss, and we can find a very smooth, or the most possible, most smooth way of doing things for you. But that's the right thing, and I'm really happy that you are investing some time in discovering that. Like, how can we do things right? Not simply do things, oh, let's build apps and hope for the best, but actually let's go into our customers' minds and capture that and incorporate into our product. So I'm always here for you, and again, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm really sorry, but I gotta go. But
Yeah.
that's pretty
No,
much it.
All right.
thank
Well, thank you a
you.
lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye bye, bye bye.
See
Thank you.
you.
Have a great
Have a
day.
good
Bye
one.
bye.
Bye bye. See you later.